for attending. I want to thank the Prince Albert Historical Society for giving me the opportunity to come and talk about the history of our family store. My daughter Emily has put together a wonderful PowerPoint, and I don't know how to use the technology, but the process or the agenda for the next hour or so is going to be more of a discussion than anything. I would like to be able to talk about the store. I've got some Emily and Lois Ryhor and my mom and Colette have put together a great presentation here. So we're going to talk about that. If anybody has any questions while I'm talking, I'm going to allow a little bit for discussion after my presentation, and I want you to think about perhaps some experiences, some good experiences that you've had with, not many of us were able to know Ted, but maybe some of us did, but with my father Jack, my uncle Fred, or anybody else. But there's some good history in Prince Albert with Ted Matheson Menswear, which we're very proud of, and if anybody has some good stories, I'd like to hear those at the end. So we have a very interesting situation with our store. We've got not one, not two, not three, but we actually are into our fourth generation of Ted Matheson Menswear. My daughter and her husband Brett Wells are now, as of February 1st, the owners of Ted Matheson Menswear for all intents and purposes. And this is something that they're not kicking me out. They're not going to leave their jobs because they make way more money than I do. They've allowed me to stick around for the next 4 years, because in March of 2029 we will be celebrating our 100th anniversary. I know the poster says 95, but that's when Jerry and I initially were talking about doing this presentation. As of March, we've entered our 96th year, so we're very proud of that, and you'll get tired of me hearing that. But we've got a lot of friends. We got some family here today. My mother Diane, obviously, will be talking a little bit, maybe.
Just to let you know, I wasn't there at the beginning.
but pretty close. I love you, Mother. I've mentioned Emily and Brett, but my son Jordan is here. Jordan Matheson, and Brett and Emily, they're in the back here, so she's operating the computer. We also have young Jared Pouillet is here. Jared has been with us for a couple of years, and he's in grade 12 this year, but everybody thinks he's my son or my grandson. I don't know, we've had both, but he's a very important part of the store, and he's darn good at what he does. And we also have Tara, who's represented here today by her mom and dad, Tara Taylor. Donna and Ken have been part of our store with Tara for the last 30 years, so we're very happy. We've got, and I actually have a list of, if you're looking at the table, we've got a lot of little artifacts here, but I've got Dad had put together all of the people, employees that had worked in the store up until he passed away. So we've got a really interesting list here of all the names. You'd probably remember some of them. But okay, well, I guess I'll be rambling a little bit because there's a lot of stuff on the go. But so for the first generation, Grandpa Ted opened the store in 1929. We've got some original newspaper ads here from the Prince Albert Daily Herald that, thank goodness, Uncle Fred had made the initiative to save them, and we preserved them. So we've got these original newspaper articles. They're actually from March 16th, advertising the opening of Ted Matheson Menswear on the 19th of March. So know your clothier. I actually thought that was a very recent, or with recent being from the 60s or 70s, but that actually was an original Know Your Clother, original saying, I guess, that Grandpa actually had 96 years ago. So we always say that, we always mention that. We don't let too many garments leave our store without Know Your Clother label in it. So, and it's a little bit of a story, but you know, since Dad passed away, I got to make sure that we have some garments that go with the deceased when they are buried, and we have to make sure there's a label in there because Dad would be upset if there wasn't one. So it's I don't like to joke about people who have passed, but that we always make sure if they are dressed, they've got our clothes on. So, and the other story about our label too is we were at Diggers, I think, at one time when Diggers was going on, and there was a costume party, and this guy had a pretty cool outfit. He was dressed as a vampire or something, and I said, "Let me see your coat," and he opened it up, and it was Ted Matheson menswear. He got it from the Value Village or thrift shop or something. So it was pretty cool to see that. So Grandpa was a very young man. Grandpa was born in 1900. And I should know more about the history of Grandpa. Fred Payton, who's not here today, has been very helpful with some of the information, and maybe Mom could talk about it too. But Grandpa was he originally from Birch Hills?
No, he was born in Roslyn, BC.
Oh, in BC, that's right, yeah, yeah.
Just as a little bit of interest, that's the same place that Nancy Green came from.
Right, yeah, so
that's where he was born.
So, so he just decided, and it says in the article that he wanted to get into the clothing business. And back in that time, everybody wore suits, everybody wore a hat, and so there was lots of people for customers. But there was also the building of the city. The railroad was being built, and Grandpa sold Carhartt, actually. And a lot of the fellas that were working on the railroad would come and buy coveralls and workwear. And there's also some history of Herschel Davidner too with Grandpa and all that. And I need to sharpen up on that because I know that there was a real close association with that. So just think I could have been selling coveralls with Herschel. That would have been cool. Yeah. So as we get on to this, we opened in the same area, 1131 Central Avenue. Harridan's Hardware was also in that area. It's right about where the Royal Bank is, and Jaeger's Fur Building. And 1929 wasn't a very good year to start. We had the Great Depression in 1929. All over Canada and really all over North America. It was not a very good time to open a business, but Grandpa persevered and worked hard to make sure the business doesn't close. Now, speaking of clothes, and not wearable clothes, but he had a story about the breakout, and what that is one night the store had closed, but somebody decided to hide in the basement. And there's no cameras back then, of course, so Grandpa locked the door and left for the night, and somebody broke out of our store, but they took everything. They cleaned them out. And Grandpa was a real bridge player. And the story is that he had to play bridge to make some money to buy inventory to open again. So he didn't let a little thing like a breakout or a break-in affect him. So that was a very tough time for him. Not only was it the Depression, but somebody decided to steal everything. So. And this, you'll see where it says Tip Top Tailors. Well, that's not a very good name around our store because of Tip Top clothing, but we think that we're better than Tip Top. But Grandpa really, you'll see underneath it says Ted Matheson, and even though he had Know Your Clothier, but he would refer to him as the tip-top tailor. So that was a very interesting picture. I think this is from VE Day and at the end of the war, I believe, is what I was told. And you'll see some of the names like the Eaton Grocery and I believe that would be the Avenue Hotel or Bank of Montreal there. Yeah, I'm sorry. So I mean, obviously, and I'll talk about it too. But obviously, downtown was a very vibrant place. And things have changed over the years, obviously, but there was back in the early years, up until the 70s, there was really only one business district, and that was downtown. So there was not too many other places to buy anything. At one time, there was 8 or 9 menswear stores just in the downtown. Sears and Eaton's and Halls for Men, Miller's, Bequera. I've got them all listed, but there was lots of menswear stores. Dan Troop, who eventually came to work with us and ran the South Hill store, which I'll get into a little bit more. But so it was really a vibrant and busy area. And some say, I wish it could get back to that, but we'll never get back to that because times have changed. I brag that business is really good right now for us. We're very fortunate that we have a good customer base. We have a lot of things that attract people to our stores. So the downtown is a good place for us, but there's a lot of competition out there. We have online stores that are very, very popular right now, and we have other stores around the city. It's easy to hop in a beautiful car and turn it on and it drives itself almost. You can go to Saskatoon or Regina or Edmonton. So there's a lot of competition out there. It just is not next to our store. So we work hard on trying to give the best experience when people come in to buy clothing, and not just suits, not just sport coats. We get into casual wear and everything else. So again, this is some of the information here. Fred Payton has been generous in giving us some information that Emily has put together. He was a good-looking guy. You can see Grandpa Ted. That could be my father Jack. He looks exactly the same, and some would say I'm turning into my grandfather as I get older. But yeah, my mother. But there it says clothing and menswear, just like the Ralph Miller, is just down the street, Ted Matheson Menswear. So
that's out of the old Henderson directory.
The old Henderson directory, yeah. And I do have some more somewhere that Fred had put together. But you'll see that in the newspaper articles that we have here, we have these in the dressing room, and I don't know why I do, because it says Marine Serge suits $35 and $40, and people come out of the dressing room and say, I want to pay that for a suit. And I have to remind them that was in 1929. People made $1 a week or whatever. I don't know, it was not very much. So everything being equal, Dad always says you make a week's worth of wage to buy a suit. I wish that was true, but back then that's the way it was. So, and of course we had some very famous customers. The obvious one that when Michelle brings the people by the store, we have an old receipt book from, and you can all look at it later on, from 1941, I believe. I can't see. Yeah, 1941. John Diefenbaker bought a vest. That vest was $55 in 1941. So the vests I sell today are not much more, So that was a lot of money back then. So it's really interesting to see. And there was tax. He paid $1 some odd cents tax too. So, and this is John Diefenbaker. Mom, who did you say? Mr. Hadley?
Fred Hadley, yeah.
Yeah, Fred Hadley. And
I don't know.
does anybody know who that is? No. If I'm blocking anybody, I apologize. But anyway, so the Canadian Pacific Telegraph, just as a reminder, when you come into our store, just on the left-hand side where I have most of the casual wear, that's the old Telegraph building. So that was purchased as part of the expansion with Grandpa in the 50s, I believe. So it's 1113 Central Avenue. Our power bill still comes as 1113 Central Avenue. So that's pretty cool. So, and the picture on the right, I think you all know who these people are, but Val Longworth, Chris Agam, Mr. Diefenbaker, my father Jack, Max Peregood. So that's an interesting picture, and that was back when, and we'll see some other pictures when Mum was involved too. The statue was the money being raised to have the statue of Mr. Diefenbaker. So unfortunately, Mr. Eggham, I think, is the only surviving member of that picture. So, and here is the fundraiser that Mom and Dad were involved in, and Mr. Diefenbaker came down. Do you remember? The statue of Mr.
That was on a Polaroid.
This was on a Polaroid. That's the other thing. Oh, and actually, that's Mr. Diefenbaker's signature. I just noticed that. So that's kind of cool history. The other thing that I'm very grateful for is how involved in the community that Grandpa Ted was. This is a picture of him in 1955 when he was on City Council. I really don't know who well, they're all named, I guess, but Grandpa was very involved in the community right from the get-go, and he was involved in a lot of different things. I mean, we've got a list of them, but one of which he was involved with City Council, and we'll go on. Mrs. Sherman was. So we are very proud of that. There's Grandpa now, of course, with Hudson Bay being in the news. That's probably a very expensive coat right now. But this is Grandpa. He was involved in a lot of different things. And Mother, where was that? You talked about that coat again?
Klein Heritage has that
Yeah.
coat. It's a beaver coat that Grandpa had made.
A beaver coat that, yeah. So
After Grandpa passed away, Klein Heritage bought it.
there we are, yeah. So
And that's the Miss Grey Cup.
yeah, so
Trip to PA.
made a trip during the Winter Festival. So of course, Grandpa probably toured, and he's no dummy. She's pretty. So she or he would tour people around. They would come and visit Ted Matheson. So he was a man about town. Again, just some old pictures of Central Avenue. Many of you will recognize some of the, like, look at the awnings and everything, but we just came across some nice old pictures. So now we get into the next generation. The next generation is Fred and Jack. Uncle Fred, who I'm named after, back when I was born, I was named after Uncle Fred, and then Uncle Fred's oldest, his name is John. My father's name really was John Beatty Matheson. Everybody called him Jack. So I was called Fred after Uncle Fred, and Uncle Fred's firstborn son was John, named after my father. So, and Uncle Fred was first to go to the store in the mid-50s, right after finishing grade 11. There wasn't much for, remember that, Jared? You don't need to go to university necessarily. We're really trying to work hard on Jared here. So, and Uncle Fred and Dad joined the store in the early 50s to help Grandpa up. Needed staff, and so you could see some of the pictures again. They look like Grandpa, but they're Uncle Fred and Dad were a very important part. And this is my Grandpa Ted and my Grandma Ruth with Dad and Uncle Fred. Well, just before we go on, I guess I should, the paper on the window story. So there was no cell phones back then, and if there was time to go for coffee across the street to the was it the Deluxe?
No.
The Deluxe? P.O. Cafe?
No, I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah, so they would go for coffee, and if anybody would come in, they would have to put a piece of paper out, or more importantly, when a child was being born. If I think Uncle Fred was across the street when Mom was expecting me, and Dad couldn't leave the store to go and get him, so Dad would put a piece of paper up on the window and say, "Fred, we need you back at the store." There was no texting back then. So Uncle Fred would scoot back to the store, and then Dad would do his thing. And the flip, this is a tradition that we do to this day. The staff, we had quite a crew in the old days, and they would always have time. Well, Dad said you have time to lean, you got time to clean. But if they were done cleaning, they would flip coins and for quarters, odd or even, or we called it sliding. They would throw quarters against the wall. The closest would take all the quarters. So there's always gambling going on in the store. And of course, they taught us how to do that. So we have a flip at Christmas time. And the story is, also back then everybody smoked, so we had as many as 10 staff in the better years, but a lot of people smoked, so we had ashtrays throughout the store, and it was just on a stand. And part of my job when I was young, I'd have to clean all the ashtrays. I'd have to count. There's usually 10 ashtrays. I had to make sure there was 10 empty ashtrays, or else the place would burn down. So we kept obviously one of the ashtrays. So at Christmas time, we have friends and family come by, usually Christmas Eve. We start out with $1. Everybody puts $1 into the ashtray. There's been as many as 30 people. The Taylors have cleaned up many years. We put $1 in, everybody flips, and it's always the odd person out. Then we go to $2, then to $5, right up to $20. So it's quite the event. And sometimes people can win a lot of money if there's 20 or 30 people there. We make it a Christmas celebration, and it's just been fantastic. It's a tradition, and Shorty, he taught me a lot. And he taught me how to keep the flip going. So, and then in 1971, unfortunately, Grandpa passed away. He was young. He was only 71 years old. He was very involved, like I said before, and he was president of the Retail Association of Canada. And in 1971, he was in a meeting in Toronto, and unfortunately suffered a heart attack and passed away. And Mom and Grandma Ruth went to Toronto to get him. And I'll tell the story. Mom had mentioned when they were flying back that Grandpa was down below, and they were taking Grandpa back to Prince Albert. So
No cremation back then.
there was no cremation back then.
Oh my God.
So his body was in the luggage. But I remember as a young man, because I was pretty young in 1971, going to the funeral home on the corner where there's nothing now, but I went to see his casket.
So Bert Boucher was the.
Yeah, Bert Boucher.
He was the.
Yeah. And who?
Don McClure.
Don McClure. Okay.
Yeah.
Then that's where Mother comes involved here too. So we opened a second location. Like I said, PA was growing. We didn't, but the South Hill Mall opened in the early 70s, and we opened a store in the South Hill Mall. And Mom went to work there with Danny Troop, and worked. The store was there for 5 years until they jacked up the lease so much we decided to pull out. But that was a very big thing for us because we needed more staff, we needed more inventory. And in the 70s, business was pretty darn good. There's lots of things happening, the city was growing, and we just thought, well, if you can't beat them, join them. So when the mall opened up, we decided to go and open a store. So do you want to tell a story about anything in the mall, Mother? Or?
It was just another, every night we'd go and get stock from downtown because we didn't have the stock. All the inventory would go to the downtown store. So we'd have to go down and pick up inventory. And so it was interesting.
And I remember the mall was quite a place. All the kids used to go and hang out there, so I could never go to the mall because Mom saw what kind of kids we were. I was a loser kid that had to stay home.
It was you kids were still fairly small, so at 4 o'clock I'd go home, you know, so that I'd be home for the kids when they came home. I just worked at the store during the day. And there was no, like, not in the mall was not like it is today. It was busy.
Yeah,
and
it was.
There was not too much extra activities.
That's right.
You know.
And there was no, there was no video games, so I couldn't even stay at home and play video games when the rest of my friends were hanging out at the mall. So, moving on to the next generation, or the next thing that happened.
When you came on the scene.
When I came on the scene, Mom worked across the street at the TD Bank, which is literally across the street on Central Avenue. And I'll just tell the story, Mother, that when Dad had to go to, what did we call it, you made a draft?
Well, no, let me tell the story.
Okay, you can tell the story.
Like, all the, I don't think I need this,
okay.
Everybody can hear. In those days, people are at, all the stores got their invoices from suppliers through a draft, and it would be, you'd get, the banks would deliver the draft. So every morning, all the bank employees and the junior ones, which I was, would have to go to a clearinghouse, pick up these drafts and deliver them to all the different stores. So I walked the streets.
Literally.
And that's where my husband met me. But then that's how Jack would see me coming in. And he wasn't always at the counter, but then I got that he was always at the counter when I came.
So that's a good story.
And true story.
There's some great pictures. I'll talk about my brother Jimmy, because Jimmy was involved in the store as well. Yes, that's my sister Judy. She wasn't adopted. And there's some great pictures of some time when we were young. So yeah, Mom and Dad got married February 16th, 1962. So, Dad, now we get into the years that are a little bit more prevalent with me, because Dad and I worked together for a lot of years before his passing, but he was a busy individual, and I got a lot of, I think that, not that I was as involved as Dad, but I couldn't let him, get involved. Me not. I guess it just comes from being a son, but Dad was involved, as you can see, Cub Scouts, Sunday School, President of the Chamber of Commerce, United Way, Downtown Business Association. We talked about the Diefenbaker campaign. He won the Legacy Award in 1997. A lot of years in the public school, and 6 as chair. Were you on the school board with Dad, or just council? Just council. Very involved with the Cancer Society. He lived with cancer for a lot of years, and he helped a lot of people. Member of the SIAS board with our very good friend, Mr. Merv Houghton. And Merv and Dad were very close back in the days. And then in 1996, he was awarded the Citizen of the Year. He served 2 terms on council. 2 terms on council. His last is when he passed away in 2002, but so he was, as it shows here, he was very involved in the community. He was a very sharp-looking man. And all of us, including my daughter, we all have one of those. Yeah. So it's
called a beauty mark.
It's a beauty mark.
Or a handsome mark.
This is in the basement of
Was Shorty's 40?
Shorty's. Was that
It was
Shorty's?
his 40th.
Shorties.
Yeah.
There was no
It was his 40th birthday, yeah. So, and I think Mom still has that sweater to this day, but yeah, that was a lot of fun. And as you can see, Lois collected Coke memorabilia, and I think Shorty collected Molson memorabilia. Dad had curly hair. I never did get the curly hair, and we were talking. Tara said, "I didn't know Jack had a mustache." Well, he got a little bit of a growth on his lip. It was
He had cold blood.
he had coal sores, and so he grew a mustache. And this is more about the flip. I guess I talked about the flip a little bit.
That's okay.
So this is just more of the flip. There's some great pictures as you can see here going around the bend. Everybody, look at how many people, you know, like it was just such a fun time, and you know, everybody would laugh because I had to explain everything all the time, and I'd lose count, and oh gosh.
Freddie, just as a point of interest, all the kids were involved in that too.
Yes, absolutely.
Remember the 1 year where the 3 young boys?
Yes.
It was,
Yeah, it's not, just not limited to the adults. The
No.
kids were there too.
Yeah, the
We gotta teach the kids how to flip.
How to gamble.
But there's the $20 flip, and there's the ashtray that we use, so.
Point of interest, your mother has never won?
Oh. That's great, that's
So
a
did
good
I.
point.
yeah, never.
There's been a lot of winners, but Mother has never been one of those.
I have been winners in other ways, but never that cash, but
We
no.
keep our money in the pot anyway, so. But anyway, that's just one of those fun things, and every year, we take a team picture. This is just some of the ones in more recent years. I don't think we did one last year, did we,
No, I
Jared?
forgot.
Sorry, yeah. We'll decorate and we'll do one. But even back, you know, back in those days, we had lots of staff at Christmas, and Christmas was always lots of fun. You know, we're so fortunate to have good staff, but our customers were. A lot of people would come home for Christmas, and they would stop in the store. And I always tell people, you don't have to buy anything. Just come in, and I mean, I love when they buy things, but I just come in, and people always say they love the smell of the old store, you know, and they like to be there. And that's it's always about the experience. We like to have people enjoy the experience.
As a matter of interest, Freddie, 1 year, well, a few years, there was 12 employees.
12 employees, so, and that, we're almost there. We should have 12, but there's only 3 or 4 of us trying to do some work, because thankfully business has been pretty darn good, but yeah, at one time we had 12 staff there, so.
Her dad was one of them.
Yes, Dr. Howard was, and he's on the list, I think, here, so, yeah. So this is a great picture. This is, there's some very important people, well, everybody is important, but, of course, Uncle Fred and Aunt Doreen, you know, Dad and Shorty, myself, there's Lois. Yeah, I don't think you were together then, you were trying to, but.
That was the year we got married.
Oh, was it? Oh. So Mrs. Dwyer, I'm just gonna tell a story about Mrs. Dwyer, because when Grandpa was busy, he had a tailor, and the tailor either got sick or passed on or something happened, and Mrs. Dwyer was going to fill in and just help for a very short time. Well, 30 years later, she's still with us, and she was wonderful. She was a great lady, and she was with us a long time. Bill Harlick, principal at St. Mary's. He was the first employee to get a 25-year watch. I remember one year we gave Uncle Bill, we called him. He came to help, and his son Ron Harnick still helps out. There's Ron right here. Ron still comes to help us out during legacy sales, so he has some good stories too. Joe Bergeron. Joe is amazing, and the story I always tell about Joe, he used to smoke like Buckingham cigarettes, just one after another. But I always said he was frugal, very frugal. We'd get bags, stuff that would come in with plastic bags, and he would take them home and keep them. I said, what are you doing? Well, guess who does it now? Me. They're good bags, they really are. So Joe taught me how to keep those bags, because you can keep them for garbage, and we have thousands of them. Mrs. Dubois, Wilf, and Eileen Dubois. So Mrs. Dubois was the seamstress at the mall, and then when the mall closed down, she came down and worked for us at the store. And her husband, Wilf, worked for a company called Lux Construction. And I remember in grade 11 or grade 12, I was driving, so I was hired as a laborer by Lux Construction to go out to Birch Hills, and they were building a culvert. And that's where I learned how to smoke export A cigarettes. Because all the construction guys are teaching me bad things. And I also learned how to weld, or actually how not to weld. One of the stories was that the culvert needed to have a piece of metal welded, and one of the foremen said, who knows how to weld? And I looked around, nobody raised their hand, so I said, I do. And I saw it one time, and I didn't realize just how important those shields for your eyes were, and I ended up with welding flash. So I learned a lesson, but that night that I experienced the most painful eye pain that you could ever feel, the real welder showed up at camp and took me under his wing and showed me how to weld. I've never done it since. Can you just go back for a second?
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to, I think I got it. And then Mama, of course, on the side, and Dad, so yeah, thanks, Ann. So great, like I said, we had great staff. This could be our 60th anniversary. I think it is, because that's at the Marlboro.
Yeah.
So Doug Altenberg still comes in to this day. Doug was working for us for a lot of years. I used to go in and vacuum the store, and he was there. He was only 19, I think, at the time, but he always hired a quarter into the chair to make sure I moved the chair to vacuum. So he was always testing me. He became very involved in the penitentiary system and traveled lots. And Les Bray, he was a cool dude. I always liked Les. He had a fastback Nova and with the loudest 8-track ever, and he used to drive me. I was only 14, so I would either walk or take my bike to the store, and he would drive me home and turn the music on. So Les was a very cool dude, and he became one of the top salesmen for Harry Rosen. So Dad and Uncle Fred gave him that experience, and Les went on to bigger and better things. And his brother unfortunately passed away. He was involved, is that correct, Mother? Ben?
Yeah.
Ben, yeah, with the RCMP and drowned in a terrible. Did Ben work at the store too? Yeah. So that was sad. Of course, Shorty, after he got rid of his toupee. Can you tell a story about the?
You sure can.
When we had I think I was there, but I can't remember. It was at Mom and Dad's place. It was Shorty's 50th.
No, it was your dad's 50th.
Oh, Dad's 50th.
Yeah.
Dad's 50th. Anyways, lots of wine was served, but Shorty was waiting, I think, maybe for Lois to drive him home. And did we have
I probably already left them there.
Yeah, we probably left him there.
And
But
I gotta explain, in our house, we have planks, cedar planks, they're not a tongue and groove. and Shorty was leaning on a chair, and he went back like this, and then his chair went down, but his rug stayed up.
If there were cell phones back then, it'd be all over Facebook.
I have enough pictures.
But Shorty worked, he worked for us for many years, and Shorty and I went on a lot of trips together. And we don't have enough time for me to talk about all the Shorty stories. But
There's way too many.
We miss Shorty a lot.
And all the things that his wife taught you kids
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Let's not, we're not
We won't go there. But that's for a different time. And then, of course, Ron Hardick, Uncle Bill's son. Ron is still a very important part of our family as well. His son Mark is getting married this summer, so we've got another event to go to. So yeah, good staff. We're very fortunate. So Shorty, you can see we still sell a lot of flowered shirts. Maybe not that baggy. Lots of. And then this is Jordan. I just noticed that. That's you in the picture. So we'd always have Lois and Shorty over
That's at our house.
for Christmas. Yeah, this is at Mom and Dad's house. And Shorty and Lois would always come over, and we'd always have lots of fun. They called me Wall Street back in the day because I always slicked my hair back and wore suspenders, and that's just when the movie Wall Street was going on. So Colette didn't like it.
No.
And
Shorty with hair.
Shorty with hair and lots of shirts. So yeah, we
And the
had,
ashtray.
In the
and the
ashtray.
ashtray, yeah. No, that's the stool. We still had. I don't know where that stool went, but that. Yeah, and there's our Tara with Shorty. Like I said, Tara has been with us for over 30 years, and I don't think we'd be around if it wasn't for Tara. So, and Shorty loved Tara, Tara loved Shorty, and we got along so well. Shorty would always have, Saturday morning if he worked, he'd always have little songs or little things for us to get out in the day to sell, and we still talk about that to this day. So this is probably, because I see there's a bottle of scotch and some other things, that was probably one of the flips, but we still have the same setup with the suits and everything, so you can see that we sold a lot of suits. So, and then so this is getting into the area where I was in 1982. I started my first year of university, and interest rates were 19%, and we didn't do much business. It was tough sledding, but I was in dreamland. I was at university. I was spending Dad's money and Mom's money and going to Louis, and oh my goodness. I didn't realize how bad things were because I didn't really care. I was just trying to get educated. So
Trying is the proper word.
So just for point of clarification, I did end up finishing. I didn't get a super duper engineering degree like my kids or my wife's education, but I was able to get the expensive piece of paper anyway. So, and I met my wife in university, so that was good. I see we're going to talk about Mrs. Dwyer and those yellow. Did I bring the yellow strips? I think they're around. And the beginning of Outrigger, which was another expansion in business for us. But yeah, 1982, not a very good year. So Jimmy, my brother Jimmy, was involved before I got there because I was going to university, and Jimmy was working at the store. He really liked school too. He spent a couple of extra years in high school, so the teachers loved him enough. So we really did. Jimmy was very involved in the store, and everybody loved Jimmy. This is my sister Judy here, and Jimmy. This is in the 80s, obviously, because everybody had double-breasteds, which we are getting back into double-breasteds. But I remember when I started in '86, there was not one single-breasted garment in our store. We had 300 suits, 299 were double-breasted. So it was a pretty cool time. So I think that was at Judy's wedding, I believe.
Well, she's wearing a wedding gown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Jimmy, and that's me with different color hair. And again, Mrs. Dwyer with Dad and Jimmy, and Lois and Shorty and Mom and Jimmy. So Jimmy was there before I was, and he was good. We ventured off into another business together, which was a good learning experience as well. We had Graphics North across the street. We bought from Jerry Koshman in '92, and it's always a good education to have success, but you have to have the odd failure too. So Jimmy joined the store after attending university. I know I'm not supposed to read all this, but yeah, that's our printing press that I said we did. So Jerry had just the corner of the Gateway Mall, and we rolled this great big piece of equipment right down Central Avenue. We didn't want to pay for a loading truck or anything, so we waited until it was dark and we hauled it right down Central Avenue. So yeah, it was pretty late. GST came into effect in the early '90s. Again, you get past one hurdle in the '80s, and then you're dealt with another one, and so there's a lot of different things. We're going to talk a little bit about how we got through all these, and then in the early '90s the buyout. So yeah, I guess we can go next game. So just some more good pictures, just to show how important Shorty was to our family. You know, at Christmas. That's a good picture. So we'd always spend Christmas at home. In 62 years, I've never not been home for Christmas. So I'm very happy about that. So the clothing club is, and I don't want to dwell on this too much, but when business was tough in the early *90s, we had to get creative, I guess, for the lack of better terms, but I had a short term with it was called Investor Syndicate at the time in the early '80s, which is called the Investors Group now. But I didn't want to join the store at the time. I didn't want to pump gas. I didn't want to be a social worker that I was in university for. I wanted to just go out and be like Wall Street. I wanted to be in the investment business. Dan Troop at the time was with Investors, and I was taking my securities course to be a broker, and then Dan came along and encouraged me to join Investors Group. So I did, and I realized how much I hated it because it was hard. It was a difficult business. You had to, after you wear out all your friends and family of getting money, then you have to go to the public, and you have to go to them. They don't come to you. So there was no cell phones back then, but I remember I think I was living at Joan Colette's mom, and I remember being in the basement and the phone on the wall. It just every day got bigger and bigger and bigger because I hated it so much. I had to pick up the phone and make phone calls to people I didn't know. So it was very difficult, but it taught me a very important lesson, a couple of very important lessons. One was you really have to do what you like doing, and if you don't like it, get out. So then I got to appreciate what Dad and Uncle Fred were doing, and that was people coming to them to sell clothes. You still have to try to attract people, but it was different. I was a waiter and everything, but I was at that point where I knew I wanted to get involved in the store. So we sold at Investors a thing called the share purchase plan. The share purchase plan was basically putting money away every month that would go to a registered retirement plan. And so we had taken that idea and invented the clothing club. And the clothing club essentially is the same thing. You're putting money into something for your clothing, and in return I give a 20% discount, but we needed to raise some money. We weren't getting money in, so even before the clothing club, I was selling gift certificates at a discount too, just to sell almost like futures, and I was selling gift certificates for a discount so they could use them later on, just to get that cash flow going. So we started this clothing club. I thought it would be very interesting to use the same model as a share purchase plan, and I thought I'd get 50 people. Well, 50 turned into 70, 70 turned into 100, 100 turned to 150, and then I think now we sit at 200 or 220. So it has been a wonderful thing because it gives us that opportunity to get our customers loyal, and in turn they invest in their clothing and we use their money essentially. So it's a win-win. This type of marketing, or this type of idea to help your business, was probably one of the best things that we've ever done. And it did get us out of a jam. Because in 1991, January of 91, the GST came in, and it just, it came in at 7%, it's down to 5%, but it came in at 7% and it scared a lot of people. It was seen as a tax. But there was still a manufacturer's tax anyways that was actually at 13%, but I'm not going to get into that, but because it was exposed, it scared people. So it's like any tax. So anyways, that was the story on the clothing club, and to this day it works out very well. I always brag that it's the American Express says you're involved, the ownership, your membership has its benefits. So, and then people come in and they can charge to their account because they build up the credit, and I always say it's free, but it's not free, they pay for it. And then this is Colette and I. Holy smokes! We got married in 1987, and look at the sweater.
Good Lord.
Yeah, that.
So any color with any color looks like.
Yes. Yeah.
That was the day after our wedding, Fred.
That's the day after. Yeah, it was that wedding or gift opening. So it was in October of 1987, October 10th, 1987. I remembered. And it was well, you could see in the back, this was in front of Colette's mom's place. It was a beautiful time of year. So, and I was really, Colette was working at the time, and she actually had a pension, so I was really happy to meet her. Yeah. This is Jordan, and Jordan, we still have this, don't we?
Yes,
Yeah.
I do.
This is our Matheson tartan. I'm wearing the pin of it right now, but that's the Matheson tartan. So that's a great picture of Papa and Jordan, and then that's Emily and Jordan there. So we were having sales every year. Linda was helping us with different promotions and everything, and we wanted a name for it. I think you guys were the ones that worked around the table at your Monday morning meetings or whatever meetings, and we came up with the idea of a legacy. Our store is a legacy, and so we call it the legacy sale. And I think we've been doing it for 25 years plus. And the legacy sale is the one thing that we do at the end of the year in January for liquidate, to make the inventory into cash. So it's a great sale, and we even make it as part of the clothing club. Wherever you're part of the clothing club, you get to come in a little bit early. So we've marketed around that. So the clothing club has exclusive access to that. So and then employees like Ron and Larry Brewster, just to name a few, always come to help out, and it's just been a fantastic thing. So Dad passed away after living with cancer in 2002, and Dad was a classy dude. And that was one, I think that was in the Herald, the class act, you know. And we were very honored to have a street named after Dad, Jack Matheson Crescent. So there's the picture that they did with, and to this day I have people saying that they live on Jack Matheson Crescent, so I thought that was pretty good. So, but you know, as we go on, there's more and more things happening. You know, after Dad passed away, well, I missed in '92. I have to mention that because Uncle Fred was a very important part of our store and in our history, and it wouldn't have been the same without him. But Mom and Dad and Colette and I and some family members and some investors, we actually bought Uncle Fred out. We had an agreement, and so we were the business could. It was really tough to have two families during that time. So I missed that part where, and it was it wasn't a forced buyout. It was a happy thing. There were some other issues after that. It wasn't so happy, but I won't get into that. It's just one of those business and family things. But the pulp mill announced that they were going to close in 2006. The pulp mill, 800 employees. We'd think that the world is falling apart, but it didn't fall apart. It was a terrible thing, but we had growth. We didn't know what was going on, and to this day I still don't know what happened. But from 2006 to 2009, we were seeing some of the best sales ever. Real estate was strong. I decided to. Actually, Arnie got me involved in the police commission just before I ran for council, and I ran for council, and I was on city council from 2006 to 2009. So those were some interesting years in the early 2000s. My favorite night. So the Scotch night wasn't my idea. It was my idea to bring it to Ted Matheson Menswear, but some of my other buddies in the clothing industry had this Scotch night, and I thought it was very interesting. Dave Manette and Gary Greenshields would come, and every time we introduced a Scotch, they would pipe it in. and then we would have somebody that would be like a Scotch sommelier would talk about the Scotch, and it was something that I offered to my clothing club members, that we always try to encourage people to come, but we would have anywhere from 30 to 60 people come in. Just recently, like in the last 3 years, we have the beginning of our legacy sale there too. So not only is it a wonderful night to learn about Scotch, but we do a lot of business that night. It's the first part of our legacy sale. So we try to get creative with how we sell clothing. So there's some pictures of the Scotch night, and it's a lot of fun, and everyone is welcome. If you ever want to come just to see what we do, we always ask for people to phone or ask, because sometimes if we show up, there's liquor laws and all that. If I have too many people, I have to be a little bit careful, but everybody's welcome.
Because he doesn't buy a license.
I
He has a business license, but not.
I always invite the police chief. And I didn't come up with that. That goes way back. So, of course, COVID. We all remember COVID 2020. I remember doing an interview with media, with the radio station or TV or Herald, I can't remember, but wondering, what am I going to do? You know, the world was closing, and we didn't know what to do. It was one of those things that nobody's ever experienced it. So in March of 2020, we had to close our doors, but we got creative. The interview that I was just talking about, the interview that I did, they asked, well, what are your thoughts? Well, my grandpa opened up in 1929. That was a tough time. Second World War was in the 40s. That was a tough time. We went through the 80s with the interest rates. That was a tough time. GST came in the early 90s. That was very tough. The mill closed down. COVID. So this is not our first rodeo. So I tried to make the best of it. We tried to make the best of it. And we did a lot of online stuff. We tried to do online. We tried to get it didn't pay the bills, but we tried our hardest. But that was a tough time. COVID did teach me a lot of things. It taught me how to change my business idea, how to change my balance sheet. And if we didn't, we were done. I didn't want that to happen. My biggest goal is to be healthy enough and to have the business strong enough to celebrate 100 years. And even back in 2020, that was on my mind. So, and then we come to the fourth generation. So, as I had mentioned, we are very happy that we could be around, still be around. Introduced to my son-in-law Brett and my daughter Emily. They've gotten financially involved in the business, and I'm going to work for them for 4 or 5 years, maybe longer. It's an agreement that we've made. They didn't cut me a check, just so that everybody knows. But we have made some business decisions, and nothing's changed other than the fact that we can brag that there's 4 generations and that we're going to be around for a long time yet. So we have a great family that does lots. Even when we did our renovations, I had Mom and Colette help with organizing the move, because we had to take a whole bunch of stuff out and upstairs and put it downstairs and put it here. We sold our house and had to move. I just happened to get an operation that I couldn't help move. I was totally out of commission, but anyways, we're blessed with the family that we have, and I don't think we'd be around if it wasn't for family. So we're getting to the point now that I'd really like to thank Fred Payton for all the work that he's done, and I've asked him to, and the rest of the staff with Jerry and Michelle, that to thank you for allowing us to be here and to work for the next 4 years. We really want to tell this story. We're very proud of the fact that Fred Matheson Menswear is still around, and we want to make sure that will be around in 2029. And we couldn't do that without my mom, without my wife, Emily. Jordan, you're still very important because you helped.
He moved to Saskatoon.
And Tara, Jared, we've been very, very fortunate. And Jared is really interested in the business. I think I really think he wants to be the next generation. So we're going to make it easy for him. We're going to pay your education if you want.
Everybody heard that, right?
But and also with our customers, because we certainly couldn't survive without the paying customer. But I probably missed a whole bunch of stuff. I could talk probably for another 2 hours, but I'm not going to. I'd really like to thank Jerry. I'd really like to thank the opportunity to come, and your staff. I'd like to thank everybody for coming, to take your time to come and listen to me go on and on and on. Does anybody have any questions or any comments? I mentioned earlier that I wanted to, if anybody had an experience. I mean, that's one thing I always try to do when people come into the store and they say, oh, that was easy. That was, I was expecting it to be a lot harder, and they say it was a good experience. That to me is the goal. I mean, you still have to make a profit to survive, but...
I was just going to say, we'll invite you back. You're invited back in 4 years for the anniversary, and you can just add to the story there.
That's good, thank you very much. That's a goal. I will try to achieve that, so.
Me too.
There's another clothing store that's been in business as long as you have in Saskatchewan, Western Canada.
I don't know about Saskatchewan. There was a place in Nova Scotia we were watching, and they had a 100th anniversary. We were taking some notes. I can't remember the story. Yeah, but they had a multi-generational family business that was just celebrating 100 years. So yeah, so that. You know, there's a lot of stores. You know, Elwood Flynn was around for many years. Caswell's is still around, but it's not the same family. So they may have been around a little bit longer than us, but we have the benefit, I guess, of saying it's still in the family. So, anyways, thank you very much.
And your lovely daughter, you should acknowledge as well for doing all.
Well, yes, absolutely. Emily, thank you very much. We couldn't have done it. I've never used a PowerPoint. And so when she came to me, I got notes, but I didn't. She said, "Do you want to change anything?" I said, "No." That was very. I mean, I couldn't have done this without Emily. It made it easier for me. And she said, "Do you want to make changes?" I said, "You know, I haven't even looked at it. I got up early this morning to review it one more time." Anyways, yeah, Emily was very good. So you'll make a good owner. Anyways, Merv.
Your dad, Jack, was John.
Yes.
Grandpa Ted. Now, Ted is Theodore or?
No, that's a good question. Actually, Ted was Frederick Alexander.
I thought so.
Yes.
That's where Freddie came from.
Well, there's a great story, like, just on both sides. Frederick, Arthur Matheson.
Grandpa Arthur, like Mom's.
It was after my family, like it was, Frederick was after Grandpa Matheson. Arthur is after my dad.
Yeah.
So you had, what, the first one we covered everything.
Yeah, but wasn't my great grandfather named Fred? Wasn't there a Fred in there?
Yes,
your grandfather.
My grandfather.
Yeah, so there are lots of Freds. I wanted to name Jordan Fred, but Colette wouldn't allow it.
I thought you were me that wanted to name Freddie, and you said there's too many of us.
That's a good, Merv, that's a good question, because I had some jewelry and a briefcase that had F.A. Matheson. But that's my initials, Frederick Arthur Matheson. And so, yeah, that's exactly right.
I was just wondering, do you own your building, or at what point did your family buy the store, or do you rent it?
We've always, that's a good question, we've always owned it. I don't own it anymore, Brett and Em do, but yeah. But yes, we've always owned our building. In fact, when we started, it was a very small store, and then Grandpa expanded. Like I said, we bought 1113 in the 50s, and then in the 80s, just when interest rates were at their peak, we borrowed some money and built upstairs where the mezzanine is. So, and that was just after the Southfield Mall store closed, because we had more inventory. So we thought, well, we're going to sell lots of suits in the 80s, and it was didn't work out. So, but anyways, yeah, that's so we've always owned our building. Yeah, we've always owned it.
But not the block.
No. Alec Aaron did that. Alec Aaron did that, but we made some very healthy renovations in the building. So we have a great little spot upstairs now with a boardroom and a shower and everything. So it's perfect. So, anyways, thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate you taking the time.